Is there a common theme or like characteristic that these ultra successful people that have in common?
I just think it's the work you put in when no one's watching. Look at LeBron James. This guy's over 40 years old. He's still in incredible shape. He doesn't just show up to the gym, to the arena. No matter how good they are, no matter what level they've risen to, they still put in that work. Don't be afraid to make a change if what you're doing isn't working out for you. And know yourself. Know what makes you happy. Know where your biggest priority is. And when you lay your head on the pillow at night, you should feel good about what it is you're doing.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Straight to the Point. I'm your host, Tristan Guerrero. We have Isaac Ramirez here as my co-host. Today, we have a very special guest, Justin White. Justin is a 7-time Emmy Award sports broadcaster for Fox Sports in Detroit. Now he's over at UWM, being that podcast.
Better broker. You got it. Yeah,
nice.
The set's right there behind us. We've been doing interviews here at UWM Live. So, yeah, it's been lots of fun.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Justin, thank you for coming on our podcast today and taking some time out of UWM Live.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. I'm glad that you're here at UWM Live. It's great to be with you.
Awesome. Well, Justin, let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself, like who you are, and then how we even met today.
Yeah, so my background is this. I went to school for broadcast journalism, went right into it after school and worked my way up from small markets to here in Detroit, where I, as you said, worked at Fox Sports Detroit for 9+ years, covering the Pistons and Red Wings and Tigers and all the teams. Amazing experiences. Got to meet some really famous athletes and travel the country. And then in 2017, I decided to leave all that behind. I figured it wasn't what I was going to do for the rest of my career. So I kind of had this epiphany of wanting to completely change things up. And I cast a very wide net, reached out to my entire network and even people that I didn't know to try to figure out what my next move was going to be. And one of those connections happened to work here at UWM. And they told me about an opportunity that existed for people without mortgage experience previously. And I decided to give it a shot. And almost 8 years later, the rest is history. I'm still here and I'm kind of running all of our content, from our podcast to a daily video we put out for our clients to a lot of other multimedia content, which is really designed to help our clients grow and to grow the broker channel. So it's been great.
Awesome. Well, that's a lot of great stuff that you've done. I mean, what really got you into broadcasting to begin with?
Huge sports fan growing up.
Right.
I'm from the Boston area, so loved basketball and baseball and football, all the sports, right? So when I got to high school, figured I was not going to be talented enough to play professional sports. So I figured the next best thing would be covering sports for a living. So I always enjoyed writing. I always enjoyed speaking. And so I decided to pursue that as a degree. And then when I got out of college, I chose to pursue television as my career. And I was really fortunate to work my way up, like I said, from small markets in New York State to North Dakota and Kentucky, and to end up here in Michigan covering professional teams was a dream. So I'm really fortunate to say that I got to live my dream for a living. And I mean, as a sports fan, getting paid to go to games is what's better than that, right?
That's an incredible story, by the way. Is it back in high school that you said that, or it was just over the time of your life that kind of made that dream form for you? Or when do you think that really kind of solidified for you?
Yeah, if I look back to high school, my senior year, I had this teacher who was an English teacher, but he also taught creative writing. And he really challenged me. I was always a good writer. I wrote for my high school newspaper, was the sports editor, but he really challenged me to think in different ways and to get better. And for me, writing is still the foundation of everything that I do. I encourage anybody out there who's listening to this to really, make that a priority when you're a student, when you're young and you're in school, because that'll take you a long ways. So that really for me was like a pivotal moment, I would say, early on. And then when I got to college, just being a sponge and soaking up as much as I could. And then, the other thing too is I don't consider myself to be the most talented person. I think there were a lot of people that it just came to them more easily. But what I did always do, and I still think I do to this day, is I try to outwork everybody. I try to be as prepared as I possibly can be going into any interview or any show or anything that I'm working on. If I go in prepared and I did my homework, then I feel like good things are going to happen.
I'm sure being around high caliber athletes and just the high level competition, right? Do you think that's kind of where that mindset kind of adopted for yourself, or was it just over time something you just naturally had to develop?
I think part of it was just who I am naturally. I've always been a competitive person, and I'm honestly always just competing with myself. I always just want to keep doing better and see how good I can get at something. But yeah, to your point, I think being around professional athletes and seeing how much time they put into their craft, I think to an extent that does rub off on you, and it makes you want to be at the top of your game so that they can see, hey, this person's a pro. I can trust them, and I'm going to feel comfortable opening up to them and giving them some information that maybe I wouldn't give to somebody else who's not as good at their job, if that makes sense.
Of course. Would you say there's major similarities between, I mean, covering sports is a topic, but now switching over to like mortgages, right? Like completely different industry, but would you say that there's still foundations that require like just doing the job in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it is very different, first of all. Sports and mortgages, not a whole lot in common. But at the core of what it is I do, there are similarities, right? Asking people how they are successful, diving into different strategies they use to be good at business or at sports, figuring out the preparation it takes, how they're helping their teammates or their coworkers get better, how they plan to grow or improve in the future. So a lot of those principles are similar, but yes, sports versus mortgages and loan origination, very different subject matter.
That's awesome, man. Do you feel like there's, from everyone you've ever interviewed, and if you were to kind of do like a recap of the past 10 years, 15 years even, like, is there a common theme or like characteristic that these ultra successful people that you have found to like have in common?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'll start with the mortgage space. I think that the most successful people that I've encountered as far as our clients go are the ones who are providing value to their clients and their referral partners without any expectation of getting anything back. You have to provide value to the people in your network if you want them to help you. And sometimes that's a long play, right? It may be 6 months or a year where you're just giving and giving before they actually ask how they can help you. But I think that in the long run, it really does pay off. So that's the mortgage space. As far as athletes go, I just think it's the work you put in when no one's watching, right? I mean, we've seen, some of these ultra talented athletes in pick your sport go out there and just dominate. And it's amazing to watch them do what they do. But what you don't see is all the work that goes into getting them ready just to play that one game. I mean, look at LeBron James. This guy's over 40 years old. He's still in incredible shape. He doesn't just show up to the gym, to the arena at 6 o'clock at night. He's up in the morning, getting treatment, going through different, stretches, lifting, working out. That to me is just the one common characteristic of truly successful athletes is that no matter how good they are, no matter what level they've risen to, they still put in that work.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Like just having like that be your foundation, just showing up, I think is what's like the biggest thing, right? Because I think that's like at least 50% of is doing it, right? It's just showing up. And then from the rest of it kind of goes from there. Like I know even personally, like when I go to the gym or we go on a run or something like that, like the hardest part is getting up, putting your shoes on and going outside. As soon as you do that, it's like, all right, like now you kind of enter this flow state and it's just like you're doing it.
To kind of go off of what you said too, like for athletes, I think that translates over to anything you do too, like even in the business realm, mortgages too. Like you set a goal, how are you going to go out there and achieve it? Take that step. And even the days that suck, like you still got to get it done. Like,
You have to, you're right. I mean, and it's like, it's an everyday kind of thing. And I mean, you guys are young entrepreneurs and like I said, for anybody listening to this, it doesn't happen by accident and no one's going to do it for you. No one's going to make it happen for you. You got to get up every day with that mindset of, I'm going to go out there and work at it today. And it might not go your way. You may have a couple people that hang up on you. You may have a meeting that doesn't go well at all, but guess what? Brush it off, come back the next day, keep putting in the work, keep putting in the effort, and eventually it's going to pay off. You have to believe that and you have to manifest that because I truly believe that success doesn't happen by accident. There are some people that may fall into certain things, circumstances or whatever, but for the most part, successful people in any business, in any career path, they're the ones that really put the work in.
Now, when you made that first step into broadcasting, there must have been some sort of thought going into it that, man, like I may fail, but I got to at least start and see where this goes, fall on my face a few times and figure it out,
It happened plenty of times. I mean, I can tell you, that for all the jobs that I got, there were dozens more that I applied for and didn't get. And, when you're in television, it's not just a job you're applying for. It's kind of like a lifestyle, if you know what I mean. Because that really does become the way that you live. I mean, it dictates your schedule, working nights, weekends, traveling sometimes. It was tough. I got rejected for plenty of jobs. And if you look at it, it's very subjective because what one person thinks of you is all that matters. There's no data to say that, oh, you're a really good broadcaster. It's how you look, how you talk, what your delivery is like.
Right.
And people take that personally. And I understand. I did too. And it's tough. You have to have very thick skin. And you have to be able to say, look, that person didn't think I was the right fit for that job. But you know what? Somebody else out there will. And you just have to keep working at it, keep getting better, and believe in yourself. That's the other thing. You can't stop, having confidence in yourself.
Totally. And I feel like people in like our age group that I've found and talked to have all these big dreams that they want to accomplish, but they are scared to take that first step because of the failures of falling on their face. They're like, I need to keep learning this so that I can avoid doing that. But you can plan so much, but eventually you're going to fail.
Every single person, billionaires, they have failed. Every single one of them. Nobody is batting 1,000, right? When it comes to business or success in your career and your life, those are great learning opportunities. And it's also a way for you to kind of internalize that failure and use it as fuel. When you get rejected or when you fail at something, you can go one of two ways. You can, go into a downward spiral and feel bad for yourself, or you can say, what am I going to do with this opportunity? What am I going to do differently? How am I going to bounce back from that? And so that choice is really up to you.
How long ago did you start with UWM?
So I started with UWM in 2017. So I'm coming up on 8 years with the company.
So in the past 8 years, or even recently, right? 2 years, 3 years, is there a major kind of setback that you experienced personally that you had to overcome, that you had to shrug off and, keep moving forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I joined the marketing team, our content gathering operation was very bare bones, right? We weren't doing all these podcasts and daily shows and social media posts with video. This was, 8 years ago. So it's like a lifetime ago in terms of digital technology and media and the internet. And so developing all of those platforms, we had bumps in the road. We had technical bumps in the road. We had things we had to figure out. For me, I can tell you this, when I first started hosting our podcast, Good, Better, Broker, I experienced a fair amount of imposter syndrome because here I am, and I'd worked at the company for a few years and I was still learning mortgages, but here I am, this sports broadcaster, that's my background at least, interviewing some of the top LOs in the country. It's like, how am I going to prove to them that I can have that conversation in a podcast? And so that was a real challenge for me. But again, I go back to doing my homework and just studying up and trusting that I could do that and having confidence in myself. And, I always have considered myself like a student of the game. I love learning. I love learning new things, even talking to you guys. It's like you can learn something from every single person you interact with. I don't care who they are, what their background is. So, reflecting back on that, it was a challenge and I'm glad it was because I think it helped me get better.
Oh, that's incredible. There's a lot of people, especially on social media, right? Like a lot of people kind of see it as like, oh man, like everything's going perfect for them and everything's going super swell. And, I would say 99% of the time behind the scenes, like there is always something else going on, and that little 1% of what people usually see is what gives them that perception, which in a way it's great that this is how we're able to perceive ourselves. But like at the end of the day, that's not the full truth, and I appreciate you opening up and
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, anybody who knows social media understands that what you see on there is like the top 1% of everybody's best moments, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people that are, vulnerable enough to share their setbacks. I applaud everybody that does, but everybody has bumps in the road, obstacles they have to overcome. You just don't usually see that in social media.
Oh yeah. So with Good, Better, Broker, how are you guys? Are you guys just like highlighting a lot of the top LOs in the country, or like what's the idea behind it?
Yeah. So with Good, Better, Broker, our goal is to identify one topic with each of our guests, something that they do exceptionally well, and really drill down into that and find out how they do it. Find out different strategies and tactics, and then have them offer up best practices to anybody listening. So hopefully they can implement some of those things into their business. So it's really not about the guest and their story, if you will. I mean, yeah, we get into some of those things, but I really try to make it about a particular topic, whether it's growing real estate agent relationships, social media, SEO, cold calls, a particular loan product. So every episode is centered around one topic, and then we kind of branch out from there.
And you guys film, is it every day, or what's your film
schedule? So our schedule is kind of sporadic. Some weeks we'll film 2 or 3. Some weeks we don't film any. But we do them all here in person on our campus, and we have hundreds of our clients coming in every week, which is a huge advantage for us because we can then schedule time with them. But yeah, we put out a new episode every 2 weeks, and yeah, it's been great.
It's exciting. I guess moving forward, right? Do you kind of see an evolution of the podcast itself, right? Like, do you guys, or what's kind of maybe like the next 5 years? What does that kind of look like for you guys here?
Yeah, I would like to keep growing our audience. Video is huge now, so all of our episodes are on YouTube, and we're using Opus Clip to generate shorts and reels, and that's been great. And really just continuing to identify areas where we can help our clients grow and bring in more loans, because at the end of the day, that is what we do here, right? We are trying to help our clients, mortgage brokers and LOs across the country, bring in more business, get more loans, and help more people. So any way we can do that through our podcast or any other form of digital content, I'm all about it.
What prompted you to make that first step into the industry that you love in the broadcasting initially? And how could someone like watching this be like, okay, if he can do it, I could do it,
I think it comes down to identifying what you're good at. Fairly early on, I realized that I wasn't very good at math and some of that stuff. And so I just figured, hey, I should go into something involving writing or communications or something in that genre. And it just ended up being journalism for me. And so I think that when you get to a certain point in high school even, you got to just sit down and figure out what you're good at, where your strengths are, and what you're passionate about too. I was super passionate about it. And if it's going to be a career, you might as well enjoy it at least a little bit, right? I mean, maybe not enjoy it as much as I did when I was getting paid to go cover games, but you should like what you do.
How many times did you have to restart over and rebuild from the bottom to get to where you're at in that moment to be able to say like, man, I don't think this is working out. Maybe I do need to switch, restart. Like, how did you know it was time for you to switch? And how many times did that happen to you?
That was a long process. It was a long, long process. And there were a lot of internal conversations I had with myself, because when you put so much into it, into a career, and you're moving across the country, moving to brand new cities where you don't know anybody, picking up your whole life and doing it all for the dream. And that's a lot. That's a big sacrifice. I mean, I spent the best years of my 20s living in cities that aren't really cool. A bunch of my friends were in New York and they had like great jobs. They paid them well and they were out living the life in New York City. I was in Fargo, North Dakota,
Wow. All the way
so
to
like,
Dakota.
yeah, that's a huge sacrifice for a career. So it was tough when I was thinking about leaving it behind, but I think that the biggest thing for me is identifying what your priorities are. And when I got married and started a family, for me, it was like, that's my number one priority. Like, I love my job and I love my career, but I'm never going to put that before my family. And so I had to keep telling myself that. And eventually it got to the point where I said, okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to make that my top priority, and I'll figure out the rest.
How are you able to manage that work-life balance and still enjoy the life that you love while also working the job that you love to do?
Figure out a situation that's going to allow you to have the best of both worlds. That was a big part of the reason why I came here, because this company is huge on work-life balance. And I wanted that. I wanted the ability to work and enjoy my job, but also spend that time with my kids, spend that time with my wife, and be, a partner to my wife, be a dad to my kids. And I can do that. If I still worked in TV, not only would I not be able to go to like their soccer games or softball or basketball or whatever it is they're doing, in a play, I can now actually like coach them and like spend time with them. And that's the stuff for me that really matters. And other people, they may have different priorities, but for me, that was number one. And so that's been great. I'm able to, work hard, do my thing here, and then spend that time with the people that I love.
So when you're going through those kind of harder moments, do you have like a bar understanding? You're like, how many marathons have you ran?
So I've now run 13 marathons.
Oh,
Yeah.
Would you say like running is kind of like your time, that personal self-reflection time where you have those hard conversations with yourself, like when you just go on a run?
Absolutely. Yeah. I always tell people that running is great because I can think about everything or nothing. It's my time to have conversations with myself or just clear my head. And so, yeah, when I get up early in the morning and I go for a run, that's what I do. And that's when I do my best thinking, quite honestly. When I come back from a run and, they have those endorphins going from the workout and you're able to kind of just think and have that quiet time to yourself, that's almost like the best part of the day in some ways.
How early do you start your day?
Usually I get up around 4:45, 5 a.m. And then I get out for my run, and, my goal is to be ready for work and be ready to leave when my kids are getting up and I can, give them breakfast and just have a quick little time with them before I have to head out the door. So yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a morning person. I like to get it out, get it over with early in the day. And I think that just sets me up for the rest of my day.
Have you always been a morning guy like that? Like,
Not always, because when I worked in TV, I worked late. I would get home between like 11:30, midnight, sometimes later, and I would sleep in.
Oh yeah.
So that was a huge change when I switched careers.
Wow.
Huge change.
I'm sure it was not that huge of an adjustment, I think naturally you feel you perform. So it's interesting because I came from my background of working like in the nightclub, right? And I would leave work midnight, 1, 3 a.m., on the weekends. Now I've kind of realized that like the hours between like 3 and like 8 p.m., I like function really high. The morning, it's a little bit sluggish for me, right? Versus with Tristan, it's kind of the opposite. He's like 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then it's like whoa, Would you say that adjustment or like maybe working during your prime time is like a huge kind of factor in like being successful? Or like how do you think just like being able to balance, just your time overall,
Yeah, I mean, I think that, look, for everybody, it's different. Like for you, your time period of when you're in the groove is different than yours. And that's okay. I think that there's this perception that you have to be this early riser and get up at 3 a.m. and go hit the gym and emails and meditation and this and that. That's fine. Like, respect to people that do all that before 5, 6 a.m., but you don't have to be that person. If it works better for you to do all that stuff later in the morning, afternoon, at night, go for it. Right. Whatever blueprint you want to follow, it should fit and align with what works best for you. So I think people need to understand that. And, it also depends on your lifestyle. It depends on what you have going on in your life. I mean, I have kids that are in school, so I want to be home and have dinner with them and take them to practice and to their games. So that, for me, that means I want to be free in the evening. So that's why I work out in the morning. That's it.
If you can reflect back 15 years, right? Let's say all your reports went away. You weren't at UWM. Right? What would you say is like a key piece of advice to, I would say even anyone at all stages of life, If you had just like that one piece of advice that you would give to whether it was a young adult, a middle-aged person, somebody who was old and kind of like midlife crisis, I don't know what to do with myself. What would you say is that one piece of advice that over the course of all your years of journalism and interviewing other people as well, that you can leave with our audience?
Don't be afraid to make a change if what you're doing isn't working out for you. And know yourself. Know what makes you happy. Know where your biggest priority is. And when you lay your head on the pillow at night, you should feel good about what it is you're doing with your job and with your life. And if you're able to have those honest conversations with yourself and act accordingly, everything else will take care of itself.
I have to ask, what's your marathon time? Your best marathon time?
So my best, man, what a segue.
I know, sorry.
No, you're good. My best time is 3:08:28. That was in Detroit back in 2010. I qualified for Boston, ran Boston the following year. And yeah, that was amazing. So I had a couple others under 3:10.
As we're kind of winding down the podcast episode here, let's leave the audience with this question. Now, for someone maybe even afraid to make that change, that first step, what piece of advice would you give to someone watching right now, to you, that is just hesitating to make that first step?
So I would say, number one, go on LinkedIn, sign up for LinkedIn if you don't have one yet, get a network, connect with people, and then ask other people who are doing what you see yourself doing, how they got there. Ask them how they've achieved success. Get different ideas that way, because they're not going to say no. They shouldn't say no. If they do, well, forget them.
Right.
But that's the best way to do it. Gather information. Rely on other people. Don't feel like you have to do it on your own. That's the best way to approach any, pursuits or any change in your life, business, career, personal life. Ask for help. You don't have to be doing things on your own. Rely on people who you trust, whether it's friends, family, colleagues. You know the people in your life who you can truly trust. And so rely on them, depend on them, and then take that information along with what it is you feel as though is best for you and make decisions based on that.
And I think what's crazy enough is that things can happen so quickly. So quickly. Like 30 days ago, we didn't know we were going to be here.
Yeah.
And now we flew from Southern California all the way to Michigan. We're interviewing yourself and possibly some other few individuals here in the near future. But like, it happens so fast, just because we got with the right people, had our priorities straight. I understood what kind of person we want to become. And now we're interviewing 7-time Emmy Award winner.
You never know. You're right. Hey man, shoot your shot. That's the other thing. I mean, you guys reached out to me and asked me to do this.
Yeah.
We didn't know each other. I mean, we have somebody we know in common. Shout out Kubi Hernandez.
Yeah.
But you guys ask. That's the other thing. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask people to help you out, to do things with you, to help create content. If you never ask, you're never going to know.
Right.
The worst they can say is no, and the best they can say is, yeah, let's do it.
Exactly.
That's it.
Hey, with that said, I really, really appreciate it. Appreciate your time and meeting us.
Thank you guys. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been great being with you.
Totally. And with that being said, you guys, thank you for tuning in to Straight to the Point. Thank you, Justin, for coming on our show today. It's a real pleasure coming into your home.
Where can people connect with you? That way, if
Yeah. You can find me. You can find me on Instagram at Justin White on air. You can find me on LinkedIn, Justin White, United Wholesale Mortgage. Happy to connect with anybody who needs help with anything, whether it's in this business or otherwise. So yeah.
Even a run too.
If you want to go for a run, if you're local here in Metro Detroit, you want to get up early and go get some miles in, hit me up.
Cool. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.